Santosh Uni, and welcome to the second edition of Out of the Blueprint, a digital property of Veneta Cucine India, where we engage with a number of individuals who are pushing boundaries in the world of design and architecture. Veneta Cucine is an Italian modular kitchen brand which made its foray into India 25 years ago. It has several branches of stores across the country to service our discerning customers and to service the 30,000 kitchen installations that we have executed so far. The conversation today is on the topic of how the COVID-19 pandemic will influence the Indian architecture and the urban planning landscape. And to talk about that, we have somebody with me who requires some amount of contextualization. In 1943, Ayn Rand, a Russian American, authored a book by the name of Fountainhead, where the protagonist, Howard Rourke, an architect by profession, refused to toe the line of architectural stereotypes of the time. People who were unwilling to accept innovation and had values around conformity rather than individuality and integrity. My guest today is someone who embodies the character and integrity of Howard Stock. In his 5 decades of being in the architectural profession in India, he has been constantly pushing boundaries. As a matter of fact, such was the influence of the Fountainhead on him that he went on to name his architectural company after the book. Krishnarao Jaisim, or Professor Jaisim, as you are more popularly known in the fraternity, it's a pleasure to welcome you to this episode of Out of the Blueprint. But before I actually dive into the actual topic of conversation, I read a quote that you had once made in one of your older interviews, and I quote, it says, "All my projects are a continuum. The past belongs to the future, and they both make the present. No single project can stand alone, as architecture is a totality of integrity. It is holistic and a way of life." Professor, give us a peek into this gentleman by the name of Professor Jaisim. What have been the influences in your life? What has been your journey so far?
Thank you all from Veneta Cucine, Uni, Vivek for taking the pictures, and him for assisting us through for this. You brought me back a lot of memories, especially when he was holding the camera and putting it together, him assembling the acoustics and various, and she walking and talking to him about Cochin and this. In a very brief way of saying, I was asked to go to Manipal to do mechanical engineering. Then I asked my father, what is the alternative? He said, there is something called architecture or something. They've opened a new school in Madras. It's just 2 years old. Immediately my mother said her father was one of the top architects of the Maharaja in those days. He said, I would love that one of my sons did architecture. So that somehow got into my head. But then I asked my father, all right, between architecture in Madras and mechanical engineering in Manipal, what are the reasons? He said, if you go to Manipal, you'll have to stay in a hostel. If you come to Madras, you will have to go up to Gindi. Many people don't know that I just come back from the National Defense Academy, being one of the few people in the South to have been selected. It was a great achievement in those days, 60s.
Even today, if I
Even many people say that you're right. I went there, stayed for a week, stayed for another week, because none of my brothers who were gold medalists couldn't get in, whereas I got him. After 2 weeks, I said, what sort of life is army life? Whom are we fighting? What is this reason for war? There was no such thing as war or anything in those days. So I went to Admiral Sampson, who was the commander. He smiled at me and said, what do you want? I think he said, you're a little brief. He said, you go home for a week and then come back. I don't know what got into me. Went back, packed everything I had, went straight back. That's when my father said, no, what would you do? Then that discussions went around. Then I joined School of Architecture. I thought my father was the income tax commissioner for agriculture. I thought agriculture, architecture, grandfather, all that combination went into it. I said, nothing doing. Then I looked at and said, how do I go there? He looked at me, looked at my brother Guru Raj, who's from English Electric company. He said, okay, we'll buy you a motorcycle. Then I said, what one? Then he said, okay, my brother said, there's an advertisement in the papers. So we went to those Mount Road in those days in Madras. Next to G.K. Vale was another great person, father's friend. We walked inside. Oh, you're the person who called me in the morning. He said, yes, I have my motorcycle which I want to sell. I said, can I have a look? It was a Triumph Tiger Cub. Right there I told my father, I'm joining architecture because of the motorcycle. The motorcycle got me into architecture. And believe it or not, the motorcycle passed me the first few years because every professor would use my motorcycle and I will never fail.
So there's always grace marks.
Beyond grace marks, beyond everything. Then,
so, sir, coming to the actual topic of the discussion, the topic is on how the COVID pandemic is going to influence the architecture and the landscape of urban planning. It's not the first time that architecture has been influenced by a disease or any kind of pandemic. Back in 1849, when the second cholera outbreak happened in the U.S., the city of New York was devastated, and I was told that the architects of that time advocated the concept of parks. A sole space where foul air can be let out and pure air can be pulled back in. And that's what actually led to the creation of the famous Central Park in New York. Now, in the context of that, what are your thoughts on how urban planning in India can be handled to face the new norms or the new normal, what you can call it, with social distancing and all of that, especially with our demographic divide, adding more challenges to the whole thing?
These 10 months to an architect has been the greatest enlightenment of my life. I call it one of my dreams because I'm not under pressure. No contractor can put pressure on me. No client can put pressure on me. As long as I have food to eat, she manages somehow to sort out the problems. I eat, I go, I come back, pretend to wear the mask. The commissioner says, "Hey, mask put in there." Fine, he will give me a mask each time. Then that started one process. Then I found students would come here because no classes. And one-to-one they would understand, somehow managed to smuggle themselves, come. Then I learnt about this, classes on paper, on camera. Zoom calls, which I've never used. Even today I don't know how to make a Zoom call, but Zoom calls happen. Big advantage of COVID. The other day I can have students in the US, I can have students from Russia, I can have students in Belgium, I can have students in Australia, all talking to with senior architects. Could I have done this? The other great aspect of COVID is it has brought the world in peace together. Otherwise the world was going to pieces. COVID has integrated the entire earth as one space, which has done.
Which other incident has
ever done it? It was only fear of war, fear of this, fear of this. It has done something unbelievable.
But sir,
you are saying, I'll just put one. 3 days back I had a conference. I was a little afraid when I saw the speaker. One was from somewhere down California sector. The other was in Germany. I said, who's the third speaker? She's a very famous architect in Karachi. I said, Pakistan, government will put me inside. She didn't hear me. She called me, Mr. Jaisim, I've heard of you. I'm the fourth speaker. I'm with you. We are coordinating from Karachi. We were afraid. You know how Bombay, I said, CABI, nobody will come here. It was one of the most beautiful conferences I've ever had on Zoom between 4 different countries, 4 corners from Australia, here, there. Yes, your question.
So my question was more on the pressures or the challenges of urban planning in large cities of India, and how that can be solved from an architectural or a design standpoint.
You have touched a very hard core, especially for software industries. People have finally realized they can work from home. And I have been telling this right from 20 years to the Ministry, Urban Affairs Ministry thing. Don't concentrate on first level cities or second level cities. Concentrate on third and fourth level. Now BJP is taking it. If you look at my lectures, I said take third level, fourth level villages, convert them to urban spaces. You will find the urbanization there will happen in a much better way because they understand architecture in a different context, whereas we understand it from the North Indian or the British context in hard cities, whereas they are still farmers. They have taught me much more. When I go outside, I love doing my village farmhouses. I love doing my housing. That's why I said one of the big builders said, don't build, you come to me, come down beyond the borders of Karnataka, we will build a city, we will build an urbanized. Fortunately, unfortunately, city has to survive. It will survive because the youngsters are looking at it in a different perspective. These huge apartments and flats are built. As long as they're cared for, it will have problems. But the influence, whether COVID is real or not, I still don't know. To be very frank, but let us assume it is real. You wear a mask. How can that mask prevent? Is putting a thing on. Initially, the mask was selling at 1,500 or 2,000. Then now it is free. You were forced into my pocket here, forced into my pocket here, forced into my pocket. That's another marketing strategy by I-50 Doc, by the pharmaceutical companies. They still say till February next year they won't release it. Till then what, we die, is it? I find there has been less depth in this. The other factor is the open spaces in the city. Can they become multiple spaces? Can they become multifunctional spaces?
Yeah, that's
This
what
is
I
the
want to
core
kind
I
of
want.
understand.
I'm very happy to listen to you. This is where I didn't like architects who said this will be an office complex, this will be a residential complex, this will be commercial complex. No, all must integrate. Now, finally, people have learned what is integration. How to make people just walk from one place to the other. This is my house, this is my cinema theatre, this is my workspace. I can move. This is where when we converted our house into a workspace. And it need not be a self-disciplinary thing like only architects, a cameraman. I like all these people because if you fuse many disciplines together, you get greater achievement. Like you spend, he spends, and I find something more fascinating happens.
So you're talking about some kind of a hyper-local.
Yes. It will happen, it has to happen. But India being India, our chaos is the thing. People always ask me, don't you find chaos? I said that is India. That is the Asian subcontinent. We are a chaotic people who with chaos we have order. I said, what do you mean? Many of these NRIs who come here, sir, we have no order. I said, come to Europe. You have beautiful order. You come home, total chaos. I would rather have chaos and then order than chaos. We all go home, we all reach, go to Europe, any city, it's horrible. America is the worst place I will ever want to go now. Don't put it, they won't give me visa. You're free. Which we are going through a process. The architects are learning a lot of things. We are also, because we are a little old, technology defies me. Wi-Fi doesn't work, or Zoom doesn't work, I don't know what to do. So one phone call, somehow the boy or the girl from the office comes here, quietly puts in hotspot, she's good. Oh, that's all right, put this, it works. So for that, somebody, we are learning. But we should not, at the same time, lose the sense of art. See, what is happening in the architecture in the past 10 years before COVID, everything became technology oriented. I can build 100 stories. I can build 3,000 houses. I can build apartments. You see this rubbish called housing for the masses. I've never seen stupider buildings in my life. They're like prisons. Even prisons are better. You can walk up to. Whereas, if the smart housing and thing had an individuality coming in, and then somehow brought people together without physically pushing them together. You would have achieved phenomenal this. You go back to our old villages. That's where I liked it. In an old neighborhood, we used to have that lazy katte. What do you call it? What was the katte called? Lazy katte, where all the oldies and all would sit and talk.
Okay. Around that tree near the
Around the tree, correct. That katte, the tree katte. Then the bigger group would be in the bigger park. Then the big group will join in the big space. That was how neighborhoods were born. So that big park would attract all the neighborhoods. The other lot, the personal lot. So you could get out from home. This is exactly what COVID has done. Don't stay at home. But you go there in the evening, you'll find all the oldies sitting here, the ladies sitting here, the young ones, three corners. Before they wouldn't know they're going. They're meeting, they're discussing. Something is happening. I'm looking at COVID in a very positive way. Yes, the physical danger of police arresting you, that is there because that is their job. They have been asked to do, but I'm glad that they will come over it in a different way. But I have learned a lot in this. Another lot I've learned during COVID. When I get a contractor and a builder who's very dedicated, he says, show me the site. Then he goes to the builder, to the owner of the place, looks at the neighborhood house. He talks to the neighbor and says, is anybody living here? Anybody live? No, I'm taking over the plot. He puts his entire workforce there. They don't have to travel. They don't have to move, which means their productivity increases. They are there. Only the architect complains saying, I can't come. No, you can come protected, whatever it is, and work. In fact, we are working now, instead of 8 hours, 6 hours running back in the bus up and down, we are working almost 18 hours, which means we are producing more, we are producing. Somehow the cement reaches, somehow the jelly reaches, somehow, as long as you work. To me, COVID has been an extremely positive factor. Yes, it has hindered travel and movement, but
I suppose we are doing a little too much of it in any case. So
100% right. We were simply building things without knowing why we built, what was the road for. You go here, destroy forest, destroy. Yeah, this urbanization factor is taking another factor that's coming out of COVID. Is final realization, which will come back again very fast, is the urban core is only an entertainment space. It is not even a workspace. The workspace, if I go to my apartment or my house on the outskirts of the city, and in the outskirts, if I want to take another small place to work, I can join 4 or 5 people and work. They are small workspaces, which means only when I want to meet people for entertainment, I come to the city, for which I can really prepare myself, prepare COVID, whatever you want. The city center becomes entertainment. The city internal space between your residents and this becomes workspaces and motivates these trends. And I anticipate transportation to become very simple and easy. Underground transportation will come, that's another chapter of mine, another way which I'm trying to discuss, building under the ground. That is my futuristic process.
Very interesting you say that, because I came across a kind of a buzzword called resimmersion. So it's a residential and commercial getting intertwined together and creating hyperlocal communities, and then probably using, as you rightfully said, the city center for your entertainment and other needs.
Because entertainment, you meet various people.
Correct.
So it's nice. You want to work there. If you want another, this has become a workspace now, right? That's a residence space, this is a workspace.
Yes.
It works. And I feel the future of architecture will translate this into something unbelievable. I call it ecology and acoustics. Human habitation. Human habitation has to come about. Without destroying nature, without destroying unnecessarily some of the greenery that we have, we can concentrate and ensure that the hardcore greenery which we have. India is a beautiful country. It's one of the subcontinents which you can grow a tree anywhere in the place. Nowhere in the world you can grow. People forget it. You can grow on terrace, you can grow on the side. The species, they have the birds. If you learn to live with the nature, continuously interacting, nature teaches us every step how to live, right from point one. I believe we can create a fascinating space.
Wonderful. Thank you. That was nice. So, Professor, my next two questions emanate from the discussion that we just had. My first question is, you talked about the tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 towns, and you're absolutely right. I mean, you see in some ways, there is a reverse migration happening. 100%. A lot of people who were coming in from the small towns and villages are now going back because a lot of industries, especially the IT sector, if you take Bangalore for example, are able to work from their hometowns from now on. In this context, how do we ensure that the mistakes that we have made in the large cities are not repeated when some of these smaller tier 2, tier 3 and tier 4 cities starts to urbanize and grow? Because that's definitely going to happen in the current context. What are the so-called red lights that we need to be aware of and ensure that we don't tread down that path?
You have touched another very sensitive part of the ecological development of spaces, human habitation. See, what happens the moment you identify a village or thing? The first thing is the urban planner and urban designer goes. Unfortunately, the urban planner and designers are either taught abroad or taught in hardcore cities. They have no idea that we don't need a road going straight 100 feet wide. We need just movement from that place to this place. You have connecting roads, connecting the capitals if you want, even that I'm not for very much about. Anyway, that's there. When I go into a village, the village grew, as I said, the neighborhoods grew. Now what happens when a highway grows, it cuts through the village and divides the people. That is wrong. Now we should go around the village and yet allow the village to interact with the road. Otherwise the village will move to the road.
Sure.
That is happening in Tamil Nadu, it's happening in Kerala. It's happening everywhere.
I mean,
is it Kerala especially?
When you go on a highway, it's like you move from one village to another.
That should not. So that movement should be understood. If it can be understood and communication can happen, I'm not saying cars cannot be driven or something. That is all another utopian way of looking at only cycles in the city or only motor rickshaws. And the metro is up to a point, fine. Beyond that, it will work. But the fact is, these rural cities, you must get the locals involved. It came up to a point in Bangalore about 10, 15 years back. Why it was dropped, I don't know. Everywhere in the neighborhood, you had to be responsible along with them for cleaning the place, working through the place. It was there called the citizens group or something. Somehow it died. The politician, powers that be, pushed it out. If that comes back, that you are involved, like the old Indian system of the headman and thing, if that becomes more progressively involved, I believe the future is with us in a beautiful way. I'm not against, somebody said, which means are you against tall buildings? I said, no, you can build a hyper 60-storied, 100-storied village. It can be a vertical village. There is nothing wrong, but you should have all the facilities that the village gives it to you. That's where I was looking at one project also today. I need spaces to meet people, I need to interact. I don't want isolation. This isolation should not happen too much. Human beings are communication people. Very few will sit alone for some time. Even the Gurujis and all, they call meditation. Without 10 fellows around them, they can't do any meditation. They need that group to do meditation.
No, because even the last experience that India has had to try and build a city, which is Chandigarh, started off well, but I think over a period of time the whole thing's gone diluted and it's just another urban mess.
You are a dangerous man. You have touched my other favorite subject. Since you opened it, okay. I think you have read something of mine.
No, not on this. I must confess that I researched you well enough, but not on Chandigarh.
I went to Chandigarh. Okay. Long been it is built. Then again, now every year till COVID came, I had to go for a lecture. I was shocked. I said, why are you calling me? Sir, you are the only architect with the guts to criticize Chandigarh.
Okay.
Nobody has got the guts. Chandigarh, great palace, great vision, great thing. In one of my first lectures, Chandigarh, I don't know whether the other college, HF college, or one of the colleges called me, said, can you give a talk? I said, sir, be honest, the entire evening is yours. I don't know what got into me. Because there's two incidents that happened to me together. I don't know which one happened, but I will tell you. I said, this is all right for the West, the grid pattern. In India, we are an organic people. We are served food, rasam here, pacham here, everything we eat. Whereas in the West, or even Japan, this, you must eat one after the other. No, we either mix everything to eat or eat one. That is our organic principle of living is India. That is what should have happened. The road should not be straight, parallel. This is gridiron system. Then said, what do you say? I said, come. I mean, mentally, because I said, go outside Kandi. Show me one small city which has copied your plan. Not one. They've all gone into organic neighborhoods. Why? Because that is human living. That's Indian living. Man wants to sit, he wants to sit and talk, he wants to. Whereas the West is all of that's the way they all are. We are not. I thought I'd finished. In the evening, to make my point clear, one professor and two young students said, we're going for a walk. We went for a walk. Then I was looking at one road, back road. Then suddenly I turned around, all these three were missing. I looked around. Where am I? Luckily one man was, he said, where am I? Sector 12. I said, what is sector? How I live in the, I'm staying in the Taj Hotel somewhere, I don't know sector, what sector I know. Oh, that is sector 6 something, he said. I said, but how do I go? Oh, you can't cross the road here. This is part. You must walk up, cross and come back. But I said, but there's nobody on the road, not even one car. Why can't I? Can't go. He said, thank you, and he went away. Then I literally thought these boys had lost me or there's something there. I sat down. I didn't have the mobile, I didn't know whom to call, what to do. Then after about 10 minutes, these two quietly come. Sir, how is Chandigarh? Smart. I said, you live. So that's exactly. We can't tell this in class, they will fail me. You want to teach what you are talking is true. Now tomorrow in the next lecture of yours, place this point. Don't bring our names. Place this. Which we did. Which we proved. That doesn't work. The capital buildings are fine. The great hand is fine. But the street design, town, doesn't work. We need a neighborhood planning. We need an integration. You can't have commercial space here, that space here, that space. You need a total integration. Those who want to work from home, work from home. Those who want to work from somewhere should work. That should, but unfortunately in India now, some of the roads, they're cleaning up the people who are working from the roads. I mean, trading all from, how can we clean it up? It should not happen.
Mr. Jaisim, my next question is on the concept of work from home. Especially in our city of Bangalore, I would say that almost 20% of the population have now resorted to working from home. And this, in my opinion, is going to very dramatically change the way homes, apartments or houses are going to be designed in the future. What are your thoughts on how residential design is going to change? Veneta Cucine itself is in the area of modularity. So I want you to throw some light on how the new homes are going to be multi-purpose, how modularity is going to become a much more eminent aspect of residential home building in the future.
Very good point. The metropolis of the future.
Yeah.
See, actually, you earlier mentioned one of the problems India faced when the typhoon hit us, some big typhoon hit us. I still remember that time the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh calling me through somebody and said, can you come over there? We were also at the time designing something for the Art of Living in Orissa and Bhubaneswar. When we were designing these homes, we found one of the biggest mistakes people make is designing home for, as part of the plan, 2 bedroom, 1 bedroom. Such things don't work. We have to design something what are called flexible spaces. Where today I may be living as a bachelor. Tomorrow I may get married. Next year I may have children. Or my parents might move in. I must be able to get my building move bigger and smaller, depending on how I need the spaces and also on my economics. Many people join together to work the economics out, which is very true, which is correct, because people live together and said, I share same facilities for the same cost, so something else happens. It will bring people together. And I need spaces where I can work from, play from, and the children can go to school and study and come back till they go to college. This is the future of the metropolis which I look at. Very flexible spaces must be taught. The only point which I have a question, which hits me now and then, working from home, up to a point is fine. Beyond that, it doesn't work. You can have a workspace in your housing space, not in the home.
Okay.
That doesn't, because the children, like if I have a call, the child may come, up to a point
But that was actually, Professor, the point of my question. How do you change the current living space to accommodate some of these privacies that you require? As you rightfully said, there are going to be kids at home. Is there something from whatever you have learned? Is there something that is developing in the larger architectural space where some of these solutions to some of these problems
can be attempted at?
Yeah.
I'll tell you why it works. You know my original house,
Yes.
which had an office in the basement. No, I'm not there.
Okay.
I went the other day. There is one management person, there is one IT person, there are two architects, two artists, one garment manufacturer. All have joined together, all not separated spaces. They all work within the same space, including the 2 meters distance also, keeping them happier that way. I see the other fellow working. And when they want to meet for quiet conference, there is a small room there which they meet and come. I find these spaces will come in the neighborhood. People will give.
You're talking about co-working spaces.
Co-working spaces will come for all. The other aspect that will grow very fast is you look at our office spaces, especially many of these. After 8 in the evening, it goes dumb. And your house goes dumb during daytime. There is something wrong, which means you're not using facilities.
Yeah.
So if we start integrating it in a very different way, which yet we don't have all the, we should not have all the, in fact, if I had the answers to it, I'm not an architect, because I'm looking tomorrow from today. No. As I said earlier, you read, the tomorrow will tell me what it is. And then my yesterday will tell me this is my journey. That journey will come as an integration process, how it changes. If I simply say, this is my tomorrow and go, it will never work, because like COVID and other things, the journey goes this way, that way, and then goes there. Or this moves and comes here. Something happens. That human race evolvement, like people travel all over the world today. You can't stop traveling. I want to travel. I want to see many places. It should happen. That will be part. The plane could be a co-working, the ship could be a co-working space. Can I touch a very politically complicated point here?
Please do. The
China
forum is very open for
China is the first country to look beyond. They tied up some 50 ships or 30 ships together, created the floating city. People got scared. I read about it. They're brilliant. Single ship can run. Now, wherever we go, we are the country. We are the people. All right, it's cold in the north, we don't want, take the whole 1,000 people or 2,000 people south to the warm. We go with the climate, we go with the moon. That's the future. And 3/4 of the world, of the earth, is oceans. Now they are not disturbing the earth goes green. Yes, new problems will come on fishing, porking, all that will come, but they are the new evolution process. Yeah. I find that was an unbelievable. And now if those boats were joined in a different way, the ships were joined in a different, as it is, ocean liners carry 2,000, 3,000 people. Imagine 50, 60 ocean liners all joined, flattened on top, planes landing, helicopters landing. It will be a floating island. I believe that's another part of the future. Apart from going to space, that will be futuristic. Going deep sea, another 300 years, air, another 100 years. But this floating will happen. The catamaran.
I think you're talking about a more mobile, whether it's on the sea or land, but something where you don't have a permanent fixation to a location.
because the climate doesn't affect you. You shift with the climate, the weather, the movement. But you know the tornado is going to hit you, you shift your whole country. You don't have to vacate people and run. It's a future, but it's there. It's an unbelievable space. But they are ahead. Very much. What you call, where the political thing and all, I don't know. I can't answer those.
So, Professor, that was a lovely conversation, and now I have one last question. With your 50 years of experience behind you, and keeping in mind this whole pandemic and the COVID situation, any thoughts on what your personal journey is going to be in the next 4 to 5 years? I mean, maybe connected to the pandemic, may not be, but what is Mr. Krishnarao Jaisim going to be doing over the next 5 years?
I was asked this question. You're right, you've touched a very sensitive point. Sometimes I come back in the silence. She works, and from there she'll be still working. What am I doing? Luckily for me, some student will call, or some college will call, or some, like you, somebody will, can you spare time? She'll say, before even they call, I say, I'll jump into the boat. I'll jump into the water. Because human beings, however much we talk,
we are made to interact, aren't we?
Without another human being, you are not a human being. Communication, interaction, yes, there will be conflicts, there will be wars, there will be things, but that is human life. I believe that is very necessary. And I noticed also when you isolate people, they get into petty politics. Whereas if the communication spread this way, the politics is not there.
No.
When I use the word, the petty politics is not there. That should happen for that movement. Yes, you find your own quiet time reading a book, reading something, all these things.
So what is it that you would want to do over the next 2-3 years? What is your own personal
Now, you have brought me to a
interest?
point why this award was given to me.
Please.
I just glimpse it and take it. JK will show to me. This is part of JK Awards. First was Laurie Baker. Then I think Charles Correa. Then Koensberger or Doshi. Then another person, a very famous, S.T. Sharma. Then another person, Christopher Benninger. Then me. Now we are handing it out. There are only 6 people who have been awarded this. I said, why are you giving? So you're all thinking beyond certain lines. It is not a particular project, it's the human habitation, human life that makes sense. That's why when JK asked me, can you accept this award? I said, yeah, it means something to me, it means something there. Human habitation is a very important thing. Unfortunately, fortunately, I'm touching one line. Architecture nobody understands. Anybody you talk to knows everything about architecture. Everybody can design a home, everybody can design a place, everybody can design urban spaces, except the architect.
If not design, at least they have a view.
What view? They have total view. Except the architect, everybody knows how to design. You don't know what. Why can't it be there? Why can't it? You scratching it, you don't know what you do. Whereas you talk to a doctor, nothing, what he says is, what talk to a lawyer, that's what. You talk to an auditor, that's what it is. You go to a kitchen also, you may cut the vegetables, but the cook alone cooks the vegetables. I said, but this profession is the only profession where we are not directly involved with the happening. We are an abstraction which brings the detail. But I don't do it by my hand. I'm not the builder, I'm not the thing. I don't even draw, it's my young architects who draw, the other architects. Somebody they would have taken a photograph. I'm sure tomorrow after he puts it together, you will find a couple of them. Sir, you said this. All this coming. But that is the great thing. The word human space is very important to understand. That I believe India has a lot to learn from the past, not from our own past, and then relive it together without unnecessarily importing things forced on us from other side. And we are a great country, nation that way. The subcontinent is fantastic. Future is fabulous.
So, Mr. Jaisim, thank you so much for this really fascinating conversation. My only regret is that we should have probably done this in a 2 or 3 episode capsule, because there's so much to talk about. I think at some point I tried to put an abrupt end to your journey because it keeps going on and on. 50 years is a long time, and the achievements that you've had over this period of time is something amazing. And I'm sure we can have another conversation at some point in time. But for me personally, it was a fascinating discussion with you, and I hope the viewers also enjoy this conversation. Thank you so much, and thank you for your time.